Welcome aboard Molly of Myler. This morning I'm going to be fitting a fridge to the cool box on Molly. Up to now we've been using a passive cool box which has been adequate, but in hot weather and for extended trips isn't much use. I'd really like to be able to have nice cold gin and tonic for my wife and fresh milk in the cups of tea. So let's have a look at what's involved. Here's Molly's neat galley area. And we've got the sink. Here's the cool box, which is just an insulated box at the moment, and the cooker and the laughingly referred to wine cellar. So the kit I've chosen is an Isotherm GE-80, which I know has been fitted to other Cornish Crabber 26s, so I know it's going to fit in there. And what you get in the kit is three main things. First of all, you get your compressor, and then the evaporator plate that goes inside the cool box, and then a control unit. So the idea is that it's already filled with all of the refrigerant, and there are these self-sealing connectors, so you can fit the various components and then connect up the evaporator plate to the compressor without having to worry about releasing or having to charge up with any refrigerant. A really nice feature of this kit is that the compressor sits on these rubber feet. This unit is pretty heavy, but it attaches to a bracket, so it's very easy with a sort of quick release system here. So it means that the plate can be fixed either to a horizontal surface or a vertical surface, and then once that's secure you drop the compressor on. My plan is to use a piece of hardwood which I've prepared. I'm going to epoxy this onto the bulkhead where I'm going to attach, so that I don't have to drill into the bulkhead itself to attach this. It's quite heavy, so it needs to be really strongly attached. The location where I'm going to fit the compressor is here, this step. I know that there is a fair bit of space underneath there. There's water pipes and the heater ducting, but there's enough room for the compressor in there, I'm told, and we can run cables underneath the cooker here and into the locker. Here's the evaporator plate which does all the cooling, and I think it's possible to curve these so they can go into the corner of a box, but it will fit into here without needing to do that, and that gets fixed to the cool box wall, and I'll need to drill, after taking a very deep breath, a hole in the box to lead these two pipes through. I haven't been able to obtain a piece of the material used for the cockpit sole, which would be ideal, but temporarily I've got a piece of varnished ply which I've cut to size to fit into that space there, and I'm going to use that as an access panel, cover it up, and then probably make something a little bit more elegant later on. So the first task is to fix that panel in place, so I know how much clearance I need, and then to drill out a hole through the area underneath and fit the compressor mounting plate. Got the four corners of the access hole drilled out. I can see there's lots of clearance just below the fiberglass panel, but there's a number of things down below which might make fitting the compressor quite tricky. So let's get the rest of this panel out. Okay, panel out. Nice bit of sturdy fiberglass. I used a multi-tool which cut very nicely. I was able to go pretty straight edge actually, freehand. First time I've used that tool. And looking in the hole, it's a little bit worrying because it all looks very, very crowded down there. Somehow we've got to get the compressor in there. I'm going to have to just gently relocate some of these. What we've got in here then is that's the conduit with the gas pipe in it, so that I can't move that very much. I don't really want to disturb that any more than I have to. There's water pipes, hot and cold water. I can just push those up there a bit, and then this, I've got enough flexibility in this to be able to probably cable tied up out of the way to put it in there, and then I'll have the bracket raised off the floor. That's the hole there, raised off the bottom enough so these go underneath, and then I'm going to epoxy a piece of wood onto the side of the engine compartment there, so that'll be a very strong fitting to put the bracket onto. I've made progress. I have cable tied the hot air duct out of the way, and I've made sure I can get the compressor in, attach the bracket to the piece of hardwood, and then epoxied the hardwood onto the bulkhead. I've chocked it in place for now, waiting for that to go off, so I'll give that 24 hours. And meanwhile I've also cut a ventilation hole here. It's supposed to be 100 square centimetres, 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres minimum. So I'm quite pleased with that because it lines up with the fan fairly nicely, and I've got a cover grill to go over the front of that. So that's good. So the next stage now is to sort out the condenser plate in the cool box. Oh, don't look over there. No, don't look over there. It's a mess over there. It's the next day and I've not been idle. I've been thinking about the electrical cables needed for this installation. I've bought some over-spec'd really 10mm square cables, and I found a nifty way to get them to the fridge. I was thinking about running them along the sides and somehow bringing them down, but that didn't work. But I realised I could actually send it down under the cushions of the quarter berth here. So there's access underneath there. Can't see much, but you can see through. And I was able to bring them down and then lead them into, from there into way in the back there, across the cupboard, and then into the space underneath the cooker. And here they are coming out. I'm quite pleased with that. So you can see I've got the cooker precariously balanced so that I've got access to that void there, which connects to where the compressor is going to be installed. You can see I've now fitted the cover and fitted a ventilator. The manual recommends a 100 square centimetre aperture, so I've cut something approximately that size and put a vent over the top. So now I'm ready to do the bit that I'm a bit scared of, which is to fit the evaporator plate into the cool box itself. Here's the plug of material I removed in drilling through the cool box. There's 2 layers of GRP, and in between that about 30mm of insulation, which is just about enough, but I may find myself adding a little bit more insulation. Groovy lines. I've now finished installing the evaporator plate and also the controller. I put that at the back there because that takes up the least amount of space. There's a thermocouple, which is the white wire, and that is attached to the top of the evaporator plate, and then the black wire has got the controls that feed through. So I'm not enormously happy with the size of the hole that's in the side of the fridge there, but I've kept the little discs that came out with the hole saw, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mastic those back in with some insulation to just make good. So that's okay, and then I have the wires coming down the back of the galley area. Similarly, I've got to make good that hole there, and then all the stuff comes through to there. So now all I have to do, I say all, is to connect up the gas, connect up the cables and switch it on. Here's the compressor installed and wired up, and I've connected the refrigerant pipes. It's quite tricky to maneuver the compressor into the space and line up the feet with the base properly, but got there in the end. I connected the electrical connectors before I installed it into the cavity because access is pretty difficult. The system's running right now and the pump is really quiet. The main thing I can hear is the fan, and that's not very noisy either, so I don't know if the camera will pick this up. So now I've just got to make everything good, and we have a working fridge. The fridge unit has been installed for a few weeks now and is working well. The extra power consumption is noticeable, but our solar panel keeps pace easily enough. I've made some improvements to the thermal efficiency to reduce that power consumption. Firstly, I've insulated the refrigerant pipes, which I hope will also prevent condensation forming on them, which could cause dampness. Secondly, it's noticeable that the galley worktop above the fridge gets cold, as it's not insulated, so I've attached a piece of insulation to the inside of the lid and plan to cut more insulation for the rest of the top surface. I'll also try to increase the insulation around the other sides. Overall, we're very pleased with this upgrade to Molly's facilities, and it will let us carry more fresh food when we're away from shops, giving us cold drinks cans, and it's even enabled us to make ice cubes for our gins and tonics. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Meandering Molly as we head off on our summer cruise. Please hit like and subscribe to see more of our videos.